Hello, everyone, and welcome back to session number 2 in our music technology community at the Georgia Department of Education. Really excited to have Dr. Freeman here still to continue our discussion in coding and music technology. If you were with us for the first session, and I hope you were, we talked about why this is such an important piece to consider in your music technology curriculum. And now we're going to actually see it in action and let him teach us a little bit about where we're headed with this. So, Dr. Freeman, the floor is yours, sir.
Thanks very much. Glad to be back. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here and show you what we've been doing with EarSketch. Now, EarSketch, we've been developing with a team here at Georgia Tech over about a decade. And the goal was to really provide an introductory experience to students that combined music technology and coding to get them excited about both fields.
Yeah, I'm just going to say the first time that I ever saw this screen right here, I was like, this is not for me. I'm in trouble. Run.
It's not as hard as it may look. I'll walk you through all the details here. We've worked with a lot of teachers who have used this, who have never written a line of code before. And we've also worked with teachers who are not musicians. And honestly, it's a lot easier to teach the coding to the musicians than it is to teach the music to the coders. So I think you all are in good shape here. We designed this interface, and this is web-based, it's free. You can go to earsketch.gatech.edu to access it yourself. We designed this to look like a digital audio workstation program, like Ableton Live or GarageBand or something like that. With one key difference, that in the middle part here is a code editor. So to do anything, you have to write it in code. We support 2 programming languages, Python and JavaScript, but the demo I'm going to do today is all in Python. And that's the language I would recommend if you're not familiar with either of them. And so let me walk you through what's on the screen here already. When you create a new script, it creates this kind of a boilerplate template for you. And at the top, these lines with green, with the hashtags at the top, these are comments. And so comments are things that the computer doesn't care about. This is for yourself or anyone else that might be reading the code to be able to understand what's going on. So I can give my script a name, my cool song or whatever, author, my name, and give it a little description here. Then this next line here, line 8, where it says from EarSketch import star. So Python comes with a whole lot of functionality built into it, but EarSketch is not built into the Python programming language. Python gets used by scientists, it gets used by engineers, it gets used at major companies. So we have to add this line to tell it to import all the special EarSketch functionality. And some of those things are already here. These are function calls on line 10 and 11 and 15. Init is just a function. A function tells the computer to do something. And the init function says, okay, get my script ready, get everything set to write my song. And it's got these parentheses. That's how you know it's a function. Init is the name of the function. And then the parentheses show that it's a function. And many functions have arguments to them. And arguments would be things that we would put inside these parentheses that would give more information at the function about what to do. Init doesn't have any arguments, so it just has the beginning and the ending parenthesis, and we're done. But the next function has an argument to it, set tempo. This is pretty straightforward. You call set tempo, we give it the argument 120. We're setting the tempo of the song to 120 beats per minute. So I could set this to whatever I wanted, and that would set the tempo in my digital audio workstation to that number. So 120 is the argument. Set tempo is the name of my function. My argument is in between the parentheses. And then at the end here, we have another simple function with no arguments to it called finish, which is saying, okay, I'm done, get my music ready to play. So I can run this, there's a little run button there, and I'm not gonna get anything. It says script ran successfully because I set the tempo, I initialized things, and I finished them up, but I haven't actually put any music in there yet. And so to put in music, I'm going to use a function called fitMedia. So I'm going to go ahead and type in fitMedia. It's got a lowercase f and a capital M. That's a convention in the Python programming language. So all of the Ear Sketch functions start with a lowercase letter, but then if there's subsequent words inside of them, they'll all be capitalized. I'll put in my parentheses. And what I'm looking for here, and this is not all magic. We have reference materials and a tutorial, which I'll show you later, where you can learn all of these things and how they work. But the first thing that we need is the name of a sound. And so we have a sound library here with Ear Sketch with about 5,000 sounds that are built into the environment. And I can filter them by artist and genre and instrument. I can browse through them. These are folders of sounds, so I can open them. So like if I'm interested in Alicia Keys, I can go ahead and say, look at Alicia Keys vocals from her song Undergut Dog, and I can preview these sounds and find one that I like. Everybody rise up. So let's say that I want that one. There's a paste button here. So I can go ahead and hit paste, and I will paste this constant name, which represents that song in our database, into my Fit Media call. And so I've got that Alicia Keys Undergut Dog lead vocals bridge 1. If I don't like that, I can preview some others. Maybe I'd rather have this one. Everybody rise up. Wow, a lot of rising up here. These all sound very similar. Maybe I'll go to some oohs and ahs down here. That's from the opening of the song. I like that one a little better. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to paste that one in instead. And then I need to tell it what track I want it to be on. So I've got a comma here because I have more than one argument. So I put a comma in between each one. And so I'm going to put this on track 1. And then I'm going to start it at measure 1 and have it run until measure 9. And so now I've actually got some music. If I hit run again, you can see now I've got one track. I've got a waveform here. Now I can use my DAW controls and I can play this back. Okay, you get the picture. So I've got one track in there. Now I can add another Fit Media function call, and I can add in a second track. So I'll go ahead here, and maybe I want some percussion. So I'll go to percussion here. Sure, that sounds good. So I'll put in that basic beat there, and I'm going to put this on track 2, and I'll keep it also from measure 1 through measure 9. And so now you see track 2 is up there. Okay. You notice it's playing it a lot faster than the original song because I set my tempo at 120. Maybe I'll take this down to 96. It sounds a little frenetic right now. So we can try that again. All right, I can live with that. That's a little better. And then maybe I'll add in one more track here. So there was some bass at the beginning. So maybe we'll try some bass here. I don't know how well that's coming through Zoom. Maybe it's a frequency is a little low there. There, that's all better. So I'll add my bass in, and maybe I'll have this start, so on track 3, but maybe I'll have it come in measure 5. And I can run that. We can see how that sounds. So now with just 3 lines of code, I've already brought in a few sounds. I'm starting to remix this Alicia Keys song just by thinking about what clips I want to use and where I want to put them. And in the meantime, I've learned the basics of using functions and putting arguments in those functions. So I'll give you a taste of a couple other things that we can do here. One thing is I can add effects. So let's say that I want that bass to fade in, or maybe I want the drums to fade in gradually over time instead of starting right at measure 1. So I can go ahead and do set effect here. And I'm going to go ahead and go to my function reference here just to make sure I'm doing everything right. So we were in the sound section here. I'm going over to where it says API. That's the list of all the functions that I can call for Ear Sketch. And we see set effect. And so I can open the details on this. It explains how it works. It gives an example using it. And so I'm going to start with the track that I want to use it on so that my drums are on track 2. The effect I want is volume. and the parameter is gain. These are also things I can look up in the documentation. And then I want to start with a value, I think these are specified in terms of decibels. So my starting value is going to be silence, -60 decibels at measure 1. We'll have that fade in gradually so that we get up to 0 decibels, the original volume, by the time I get to measure 5. And now if I run that, you can see it's now drawn my volume curve here. So you can see that fade in happening, and we should be able to hear that if we listen. Okay, so you get the picture, how I can build things together. Now, if we have time, I want to show you one more example that gets into, right now, what we've been doing so far is the coding that we were talking about in the last video. We're learning the semantics of the language, how things work in Python. But that next level of algorithmic thinking, of computational thinking, we're not quite there yet because we're just telling the computer what to do step by step. So I want to give a quick example of how we might get to that next level of computational thinking. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to create a loop. So I'm going to say for track in range, we've done 3 tracks already, so maybe 4 through 6. So this next block of code is going to execute a couple times. Once when track has a value of 4, and once when it has a value of 5. And when it gets to 6, it will stop. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to do fit media, and I'm going to do it, though, instead of with a sound that I've pre-selected, I'm going to have it randomly pick a sound for me. So I'm going to say select random, I believe it's select random file is the name of this. Yeah, select random file. And so I'm going to let the computer decide now what sound I want to pick. But I can give it some constraints. I can say, well, I want it to pick maybe one of these theme things. So I see Alicia Keys Underdog theme. So I'm going to go here and say AK Keys Underdog theme. So every time this runs, it's going to pick a different sound. And then we're going to put it on whichever track it's doing in this, whatever time through this for loop it is. And maybe I'll just start them all on measure 5 and have them end on measure 9. So let's see if that works. I might have a syntax error here. Of course, I've got a syntax error. Too much pressure here when I'm coding in front of everybody. I think I may need to put that in quotation marks. Okay, there we go. So it took me a couple tries to get it right. I had to experiment a little bit, debug. But now you can see it's added 2 more tracks here. One on track 4 and one on track 5. And it randomly picked Underdog pad 2 and piano 3. If I run this again, it's going to pick different things. So now it's going to pick strings and guitar. And if I want more tracks, I can have it do lots of tracks. So now it's doing a bunch. So now every time I run this, I'm going to get different stuff coming in the second half of this clip. So creatively, this is a relatively simple example here where I'm just kind of randomly picking stuff. But there's a lot of different ways that I can kind of take advantage of this interplay between what I decide as a musician and what I ask the computer to decide through an algorithm to put a song together. It can be random decisions. I can bring in data. I can base something on the current weather conditions in Gwinnett County. I can look at kind of anything I might want to convey and use that to influence the decisions. I can write a math equation and have that somehow be influencing what's picked. So there's all different kinds of ways that these things can come together to create a piece that's at that intersection, again, that I was talking about in the last video, kind of between what the musician, the composer might be thinking and what they're achieving through this collaboration with the computer.
That is phenomenal. I'm even thinking that like beginning a music technology this way, a music technology class this way would be really efficient, because that like they've got to really think through some of the musical skills, like what is a measure, how long, how many measures, instead of just absentmindedly dragging a loop in and having it computate all that for the students. I'm seeing this as a potential way to like really help them understand, like, this is what a measure
Yep.
is and this is why it's important, instead of winding up with a bunch of loops that start on like beat 3.5 of a measure and they never line up.
Absolutely.
Right.
There's this tendency, I think, at least that I noticed with my students at Georgia Tech, towards what I would call like a preset phenomenon, where if everything is laid out and they have the ability to just choose from a menu of options, audition a bunch of presets and pick what they like, they're going to take that route because it's really easy, without necessarily understanding what's happening underneath. And so this does force them to think through some of the musical ideas and some of the underlying things. It's also something they can integrate really well with a DAW. So you can add sounds. So I said we had about 5,000 and 4,000 sounds here. You can add sounds, you can upload files that you may have yourself and then use them. So you might have created something in a DAW that you like, that you want to bring into this environment and work with algorithmically. But you can also go the other direction. So I can download, and I can do a multi-track download, where it's actually going to download a WAV file representing every single one of the tracks in the project I've created in NearSketch. And then it's super easy to import those as a multi-track kind of rendering into a DAW. And then I can add more tracks on. So there's certain things that NearSketch doesn't do well at all. Like if I wanted to record vocals on top of this, it's not really easy to do in NearSketch, but it would be very easy to export this into a DAW and then record my vocals on top of this to make a finished piece.
I was so hoping that you were going to put some of your own singing over top of Alicia Keys.
Oh goodness. I am so glad that I don't have to do that today. My singing is awful.
As much as mine would be if you asked me to do that with this right now as well. Well, Dr. Freeman, this has been enlightening. It's so interesting to see how much is incorporated in this. You made that fade in just look so effortless and easy, but still taught the skill of decibel and understanding the decibel range and everything that went along with that. That was just that was killer, man. I love it.
Awesome.
Everyone stay put. There's going to be a third video coming out in a few days. And in that video, we'll dig into this more with Dr. Freeman and really get some ideas about how we can apply this to our own music tech classes in a very quick way. So appreciate you watching this one. Looking forward to the next one. Thank you, everyone.